World-class racer or king of Crankworx? You think the pump track here in Austria cares? It doesn't. Pump track don't care about how many times you've won before. Pump track don't care about how many followers you've got on Insta. All pump track cares about is the opportunity for upsets and underdog stories. Perennial pinners like the 2017 King of Crankworx Adrian Larone are here, but so are a bunch of crazy fast riders who are hungry to make a name for themselves. Head-to-head racing, under pressure, and under the lights. The Rockshox Innsbruck Pump Track Challenge is coming your way.
5, 4, 3.
Greetings, race fans. Did you miss us? We missed you. It's time to get back in action on the Crankworx World Tour. We're live today from beautiful Innsbruck, Austria. It's all about pump track this evening. You know, we may be in Santa Monica, California at Red Bull headquarters in their studio, but we are there in spirit. We're so amped to be back on track with the Crankworx World Tour. We had a dual slalom broadcast just hours ago, and it felt so good to get things rolling again. And now we're gonna continue that momentum, but we're just gonna keep things pumping right along here. We've got top riders from all over Europe. We've got some from the Southern Hemisphere, obviously some issues with travel bans, so we don't have all of the familiar faces that you come to recognize on the Crankworx World Tour. But if the dual slalom was any indication, we have some great racing coming at us tonight. I'm your host, Cam McCall, alongside professional downhill racer and our sport analyst here, Elliot Jackson. We've got top 8 and top women already bracketed down. It's going to be head-to-head racing, just like we saw in slalom.
It's so true. I think in the dual slalom yesterday, or earlier today, I guess I should say, for most people, we saw so many unexpected things. That women's final, getting a rerun, you know, everyone's kind of making a little bit of mistakes. So coming into the pump track, I know we're going to have a couple of upsets, so it's going to be crazy exciting.
And a very similar course to what we've had in previous years in Innsbruck, but there's no better way to get a feel for that course than going on board with some of our riders. So let's check out the GoPro course preview with Adrian Daly and Kathy Kuipers.
Hey, I'm Adrian, this is Katie. We are in Innsbruck for the Crankworx 2020. And this is your GoPro course preview on the Rockshox Pump Track Challenge. Almost same time.
So familiar course, we've got some familiar faces in the field out there today in the Pump Track Challenge. We've also got a familiar third member of our team, a familiar face, familiar voice, Andrew Needling, joining us through the magic of the internet all the way in South Africa. Greetings, Andrew. Oh, I see you've switched up your backdrop a little bit. You've got you're a botanist.
I am, guys. I mean, we've got a bunch of broadcasts to get to this week, so I thought I'd mix it up. I've changed my kit, even though it's the same day for me. This is broadcast number 2. We had slalom earlier, which was exciting. It was good to get racing. I think the riders are just excited to be, you know, under the clock, under that race circumstances. I've been speaking to a few of them. They say it's pretty different not having spectators there, but I don't think they'd have it any other way. They're just glad to be back racing. We're talking about a lot of positive things. We had awesome racing earlier, and I suspect we're going to have some new names thrown in the mix here tonight as well.
Absolutely, some new names. Pump track is kind of that discipline where a lot of these new names launch their careers, so it's going to be exciting to see. With the door opened up a little bit more, some nationalities not allowed to travel to Europe right now, and based on the qualification results we've been looking at, French absolutely dominating. French making up 50% of the top 16 field in the men. And then that woman right there, Mathilde Bernard, she picked up the silver medal in dual slalom just hours ago, and she's the top qualifier here in the women's field by over 3 seconds. Absolutely amazing. So it's hers to lose here, and anything can happen in pump track, so she's looking to make absolutely no mistakes. But another guy that we saw just a few hours ago, Adrien Lerone. Now, he's such a familiar face when it comes to podiums on the Crankworx World Tour, but we were surprised to learn that he had yet to win a dual slalom gold medal. So he checked that off of his bucket list a few hours ago. We caught up with him on headset, and he was just so calm, cool, collected. Said he's been kind of just taking this lockdown time to chill, so look out for him. But you know what? The French contingent runs deep, Elliot.
It's so true. I think Cheney has that pump track experience. We've seen him at Crankworx. He's the 2018 pump track world champion. So, you know, we are going to have a crazy good battle here tonight.
Cheney Gounet stood on so many podiums in pump track racing on the Crankworx World Tour. And for a little insight on how this format works, what is pump track racing if you're new to viewing pump track on the Crankworx World Tour? No chain, you're pumping, you're not pedaling, and the smallest wheel size you can have is 26-inch, so it's all mountain bike, even though a lot of these racers come from a BMX background, and it's very, very similar to what we had earlier with dual slalom. It's a bracketed format. We cut the field in half after each heat, after each bracketed run, and we switch sides just like we do on slalom. So you have to beat the rider who beat you by more than they beat you by. Last year, your series champions were Keilani Hines for the women and Adrien Lerone for the men. So Adrien Lerone already with a gold medal to his name today, looking to back up his world championship title from last year's season. And one thing that's different about the event we're going to see right now is we're always talking about the overall war, with each individual event being these battles where they're collecting points, trying to get that King of Crankworx, Queen of Crankworx crowns, also trying to win the series overall for each individual discipline. Right now, we're not doing that because we don't have a full series this year. And it kind of opens things up a little bit. People aren't thinking long term. Do you think that plays into the strategies? They're just going for that gold every run?
Yeah, it's so true. We saw Lerone earlier today. We know him as a really intense rider, but he was just so chilled. He said he went surfing, really taking some time off during quarantine to refresh, get some training in, and come back here and really be prepared for these single event races.
So there's a look at our round of 8 brackets for the men's category. Let's take a look at our round of 8 brackets for the women's category. Of course, you're going to see Mathilde Bernard at the top of that list. She has a bye based on her convincing #1 qualification result by over 3 seconds. But take a look at our other 3 heats.
Yeah, we have a lot of new names. We didn't see a lot of these women in the slalom race, so they all know what they're doing. They're all going to try to beat Mathilde.
The stage is set for the Rockshox Innsbruck Pump Track Challenge, racing underway when we return. Crankworx time, race fans. At a time of the year when most of these riders are focusing on how they're going to plan their off seasons. I mean, we're in October, but we're back in action doing a pump track race here in Innsbruck, a course that we know and love, a venue that we've been going to year after year. It's great to see that we didn't have to skip this one as well. It's been 6 months since we've had a pump track race on the Crankworx World Tour. It hasn't been since Rotorua. So I know all these racers are just so thrilled to be back in action here. Star-studded field. This is the Rockshox Innsbruck Pump Track Challenge, and it starts right now.
Bringing people that are passionate about a sport that we all love, bringing a community together to hang out, and that's a Crankworx thing.
Some guys are just impossible to beat nowadays.
It's technical, it's fast, it's what I like. maybe I'm going sometimes too much over the limit, you know.
This is like a feeling that I've never really felt in bike racing before.
Oh no!
It's adrenaline, it's a rush, and that's it.
Goal would definitely be a win.
Rockshox Innsbruck Pump Track Challenge. Take a look at that course. It's absolutely perfect. Some blistering qualifying times. And now we're finally going to get riders paired up against each other in the gate and then cut this field in half every step of the way before giving away some hardware. So if you're curious, where in the world is Innsbruck, Austria? Let's zoom out all the way to outer space from our satellite view, pull right in to the European continent. There we go, we're in the Alps. Look how beautiful this place is. The city in the mountains, a city that embraces mountain biking. And now we've been coming here year after year, bringing the festivities of the Crankworx World Tour to Innsbruck, Austria. We had our ribbon cutting ceremony just a few hours ago, kicked things off with the dual slalom race, where we saw Adrian Larone grab that gold medal. And now, with only a few hours to rest, we've got some familiar faces stacking the field. Mathilde Bernard looking to grab a gold medal to back up that silver medal she had earlier in a heated battle between herself and Morgan Shar. She gets a bye into the next round, so it's going to come down to Zibasa and Fruworth right now to see who's going to go up against the woman to beat. Her qualifying time over 3 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. So it's going to be a tall task to get out of this round, but also it's going to get even tougher once moving on to the next.
Yeah, we definitely know that Mathilde has kind of been head and shoulders above the women's field, especially in slalom. We saw how just precise she was over all those rollers. You know, I know Paula from the World Cup circuit. She's in the junior class, 2018. That's a great results. And two different riding styles here. And so what these riders are really going to want to do is try to be consistent. You don't want to overshoot a roller. You see really getting that last straight. You know, they're even the whole race and then really pulling away right there.
So Paula Zibasa through the line first by 1.2 seconds. And Andrew Disling, 1.2 is quite a large differential, isn't it, on such a quick pump track course?
Yeah, we saw it in slalom there. At least you can try and make it up. There's some technical sections, but as Elliot was saying, you know, you've got to be consistent. If you're going to ride smart, you shouldn't give away 1.2 seconds, you know, if you have a clean run. So that's the one you have to get out in front and try and kind of push or hope for a mistake from your opponent.
Especially considering that the difference between one side and another in slalom is usually a little bit larger than here in pump track, where they're pretty much mirror images of each other. Next heat loaded up into the gate. Elka Rebedare going up against Mille Jonset. Austria versus Norway here. Who is going to grab the bull by the horns and get this advantage?
And I was looking at Millie's qualifying times. It seems like she might have made a mistake on her first run. She was 2 seconds back, so even though she qualified a little lower, she should be right there on pace with her.
That's the thing that can really shake stuff up. You base a lot of your predictions on those qualifying scores, but it's totally possible to have mistakes in your qualifying run.
Yeah, and we talked about that a little bit in slalom, but Needles, you know, what is more important, really getting a good qualifying time or, you know, getting a good first run in a race?
Yeah, I mean, great question. I mean, obviously the perfect answer is do both, but you need a good qualifying time, but it's not the be-all and end-all. If you throw away in qualifying and you qualify in 25th position instead of like 8th, you know, you're going up against one of the top seeds your first run, so that's going to be tough to get through. So you got to be up there, but you don't have to qualify in 1st or 3rd to win this thing. We've seen it many times. You can come from 6th or 7th in the men's field, and you can take out and go on to win if you gain momentum and confidence.
True. Very tight differential there between Ravadair and John Sett. 0.12 as we focus our attention back up to the next heat in the gate. Kathy Kuipers, the number 2 qualifier, going up against CJ Seelig. And Elliot, CJ, definitely exciting to see her out here, and very cool to see her spreading her wings. She's not a full-time racer, yet she's qualifying for this race.
Yeah, it's so true. I think we all know CJ is the team manager for the Adidas 510 team, full-time job. We saw her actually riding the Fest Series jumps there in South Africa. I don't know if you were out there, Niels, to see that. It's pretty insane.
I step up before her, and she honestly impressed a lot of people out there, and it was cool to see her. Really, it was courageous. That step up is, if you're in person, it's so big, it's just insane. And she did some cool stuff up there, especially since she's not on the bike full time. Like you say, she's running the athletes there that are on the 510 program.
So Kathy Kuipers through the line with a healthy lead, 1.6 ahead of CJ. So it's great to see CJ out here, multi-talented rider, also so much on her plate with managing the team. Really cool to see her putting her hat in the ring here in the Pump Track Challenge. Now it looks like we're on to the men. Let's take a look at our first bracket in the round of 8. A guy who's already had a good day, Adrian Lerone, took that gold in the dual slalom, going up against Austria's Hannes Slavik.
Yeah, and it makes such a huge difference to have a result earlier in the day. You just feel good. You know you're riding good. You're racing a lot of the same people you already did. You know you can beat them. And Ryan is at home on the pump track. I always like kind of marvel at how precise he is. He always catches the backside of every single roller. Knows how to save energy at the end there, because he knows he's going to probably move on and get toward the final.
Adrian Lerone getting comfortable with that number 1 alongside his name. That's where he sits in the dual slalom finish, and then also that's where he sits in the qualifying results for this Pump Track Challenge. Making good on that promise right now, getting a very strong lead over Hannes Slavik in their first run.
And we know
Elliot, I mean, that's such a good point. Yeah, I mean, Elliot, I was just thinking about that, how good it is. Your point is perfect. He's come in here so relaxed compared to normal. Often I think his downfall is how much he wants it. You know, he'd qualified fastest and he might make a mistake, and you see he's got angry before, but he seems almost like a different person after lockdown and just being excited to race, and now the pressure's off. He's already ticked off a gold medal. I think that's a dangerous place for him to be compared to some of the other riders that haven't quite got their results they want to yet, or haven't done anything in 2020, you know?
Yeah, it's so true. Especially with this smaller bike racing, it's all about precision. It's all about execution and technique, and he's really got it down.
Well, Adrian Lerone, a rider who competes in so many disciplines on the Crankworx World Tour. Another rider who puts a lot on his plate is the man on your screen right now, Thomas Lemoyne. Of course, a slopestyle specialist, but he has taken golds in Pump Track. He rides the same bike for all these disciplines. Let's check in with how he sets his bike up.
So you need to be pretty powerful and don't do mistakes, pretty much. Like technical, powerful, no mistakes, and probably get a lot of cardio, because the full day of Pump Track is pretty long, because you do like 2 runs per heat. So if you go to final, you better be like ready for it.
So listening to Thomas Lemoyne speak right there about kind of the headspace and focus you need in order to compete in multiple disciplines, that's something we're really going to be tracking with Adrien Lerone. Andrew, you were speaking about how he seems to be in a good headspace, but physically it's got to be a long day if you're competing in 2 different races and one, you know, before the sun sets, you've already done 2 races.
Yeah, and slalom is tough. You're obviously often pushing up to the top, but these riders, they're professional. Yes, he said he went surfing for a month, but you know that made him more driven to get fit, to get ready. He's clearly race sharp. He's clearly done his fitness work as well. Thomas Lemoyne, maybe not known for that fitness, but he's only doing 1 event today, then he's got slopestyle tomorrow. Slavic, and he comes from the 4-cross background. He knows what it takes to go through a long day of practice, gates, heat, so but it pays, it does really pay to be fit, because I think mentally at the end of the day, the fitter you are, actually the better mentally you are making good decisions as well.
Yeah, for sure, Andrew. And Elliot, this is kind of wild. That was the 4th and 5th qualifiers there. Oh, yeah, it's not easy to do gate starts without a chain. You can't really pressure the pedals. So 4th and 5th seeds there, Lemoyne versus Slavic, and Lemoyne with over a second advantage over somebody like Thomas Slavic in an event like Pump Track. Lemoyne is looking on point. Crazy to think that he's going to be doing slopestyle in the morning, but back up to the top in the gate right now, Niels Bensink and another slopestyle specialist, Louis Rabot.
Yeah, this is where Bensink should sign. You know, he's known for riding those World Solution Pump Track qualifiers and World Championships, but Rabot is kind of one of those wins whip-offs, you know, slope style, speed and style, just a talented biker.
Look at Rabot right now. Is he going to be able to hold on to that lead? Wow, come from behind there. Niels Bensink in the final straightaway, inches ahead of Louis Rabot by 0.174. Now, Louis Rabot kind of blowing minds, making it to this round of 8. He knocked out Adrian Daly, who's a race specialist. So Louis Rabot, a rider who focuses more on the freeride aspect. Like you say, though, when you dabble in all these different disciplines, you build up a really nice foundation of skills. Just goes to show how close he was here to the BMX pro, Niels Bensink.
Yeah, I think we all think of all these disciplines being so separate, but every single person here at the Crankworx World Tour can ride a bike. Like, it's actually insane if you were to see, you know, anyone ride downhill, anyone ride jumps, anyone, you know, do whip off or slalom or pump track. They're all professionals and they're all so good at what they do.
Just like riding a bike. All right, so Gauthier Zhang going up against Cheney Gounet. Now, Andrew, Cheney Gounet is somebody who launched their Crankworx career in this discipline, isn't he?
He did, and he did it just here in 2018. He was new to us, but not to the world of bikes and BMX. I mean, he just skyrocketed onto the circuit. He won that series as well, so he was our 2018 Pump Track World Series champion. I mean, look at him. Whenever he is at an event, he's a threat. He often qualifies, you know, in the top 3, and then he's making it through the final most times as well, unless there's a bit of a hiccup. So it's cool to see him kind of launch his name into mountain bike stardom here on the Crankworx World Tour.
Cheney Gounet, the number 2 qualifier, going up against Gauthier Zhang, the number 7 qualifier. So smart money would be on Cheney Gounet here. But this is Pump Track, and a tiniest little mistake can change your day.
I laughed a bit because I thought you were going to say it was going to be on the French rider. They're both French, and we have half the round of 16, over half actually is French. Or sorry, the round of 8. It's actually insane how well these French riders have been riding. Is there something to that, Needles? You know, you see kind of over time, different countries have different kind of eras. What is that?
Yeah, I think when you're in a country, I mean, me from South Africa, Greg was one of the first riders to do well in downhill mountain biking, so you get to know that. So a lot of riders went to downhill. Some other countries, their stars of mountain biking were cross country, and here we're seeing, you know, a lot of the French riders in the beginning were doing well at pump track slopestyle, and The cool thing about France is these riders are forced to ride all disciplines when they're young. Even Loic Bruni, he rides when he was young in clubs, XC, pump track, everything, you know. So they maybe get more exposed to these disciplines and then like it.
Yeah, that's so true. I think that well-rounded. And, you know, one of the other things, you know, we see Cheney going ahead there, but one of the things that I think is so important is not getting too focused on being pigeonholed, you know, being able to train and actually liking it, being able to do a pump track race and not being frustrated or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You shouldn't just, even from a young age, specialize. Everyone's trying to do that, but I think the French are showing now it's really paying off, that club system that they do trials mountain biking, which no one really does anymore, but it just gives you a really good skill base. And then you do cross country, so you have a bit of fitness. And then when you get to the point that you're passionate about one discipline, that's a really good time to specialize. And we're seeing the problem of riders specializing too early in, say, cross country and not having downhill skill, or specializing too early in downhill and not having much passion for any fitness. And that can be a challenge as well, can't it, Elliot?
Yeah, it's definitely true. I had to really make myself train there. That was a rough go, but.
Well, there was a look at our men's brackets. Here's a look at our women's brackets. Really curious who's going to meet up with our #1 qualifier, Mathilde Bernard. Will it be Fruworth? Will it be Zabasa? Zabasa with a convincing lead right now, 1.2. But only time will tell out here at the Rockshox Innsbruck Pump Track Challenge. We're going to fill up those round of 8 brackets after the break. Well, here we go, getting ready to make our first chop of the field in the Rockshox Innsbruck Pump Track Challenge. We're right in the middle of the round of 8 for the men and the women categories. We're gonna find out who's gonna make it into the semi-finals. A great day for pump track racing. Low wind, cozy temperatures, and a nicely watered pump track course for day 1 of competition out here at Crankworx Innsbruck, where, I mean, statistically speaking, you gotta say the smart money's on the French right now, especially in the men's category. But in the women's category, Mathilde Bernard, French racer, with a 3-second lead in the seeding. So, I mean, are we going to see 2 golds again for France out here, or is there anybody out there in the field who can pull the rug out from under France?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to say it's Bensink's got the best chance. You know, he was 3rd place qualifier. He has been here before. I think having that experience in the pump track circuit at those Velo Solutions races really gives him an upper hand against the people who might ride downhill or enduro all the time.
So Andrew Needling joining us all the way from down there in South Africa. What do you make of this French domination?
Yeah, I mean, I think we spoke about it earlier, and the federations are really good. I think they've got a strong BMX scene, so there's a lot of talent that comes up through BMX, and then sometimes gets a bit bored of BMX or how serious it is. And I think we've got a cool atmosphere in mountain biking as well as Crankworx, especially. So yeah, they are going to be tough to beat. We've got Slavik. I don't think he's firing on all cylinders, but you never know. Once that experience, you know, he starts kind of getting through the rounds, he might build some speed. But as Elliot said, Bensink has got a good chance, because all you need to do is get that wheel a little bit ahead, and you might put some pressure on the opponent that can actually visually see you, and you end up forcing a mistake, even though it's a faster rider. And if he just relaxed and made his way through with, you know, less mistakes, he'd be fine. But sometimes he pushes a little bit too much in that area of a track that he didn't need to. He makes a mistake, and who knows, we might have an upset to what is looking like French domination.
Well, Niels Bensink and Slavik, the only 2 racers who are not from France with an opportunity to win this race. And then Mathilde Bernard, the only racer from France in the women's field. So it's going to be an uphill battle for any of these competitors to knock her down, because she's looking absolutely flawless, like we said before, with that 3-second lead in the seeding. But the next heat we will see in the gate will be between Sebasa and Fruworth. Whoever makes it out of this bracket will face up against Mathilde Bernard. A pretty big differential between these two, but take a look at the tire choices here for Helene Valerie Fruworth. Elliot?
Yeah, we talked about running the knobbies on the slalom track, and here it's all about the rolling speed. You would maybe, you know, that back tire is going to have a little bit more knobby, especially those side knobs for the berms, because you're pushing so hard. But it is more about the rolling speed.
So Paula Zibasa with the lead here, 1.2 seconds. So that's a cozy deficit. She basically got to just keep the train on the tracks, cruise across the finish line. She may not cross the finish line first, but it doesn't look like it's going to be back further than 1.2. Paula Zibasa, cozy, making it through to the semifinals.
I like that. I like that. A cozy margin.
You're sitting there pumping through those rollers, eyes up in those berms, and you are thinking about exactly down to the millisecond what you have to work with, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. We saw Paula kind of let up there, and it's crazy that a rider can actually calculate, okay, you know, they're a bike length ahead of me. How much time is that going to be? I should probably save a little bit of energy because I know I have a little bit of a pillow to play with.
Now, Andrew, in downhill, when the times are so much longer, and obviously each mistake doesn't matter as much, what do you think's a harder mindset here, where every tiny millisecond counts, or on downhill, where it's a long performance?
Yeah, I think downhill you've got time to build into your run, so you've got to get the first section good, but then your run often just works itself out. You've done a lot of visualization. Here, you can't afford any mistakes, so if you start thinking about that, that's more pressure in that start gate. And I just think what Elliot was speaking to, that's a strategy that these riders should think about. If you're far ahead, Eric Carter back in the day, the great American four-cross racer downhill, was so good at conserving energy along the heats. And then come the final, he was often just able to keep ahead because he was more fresh.
That's a good point. Pacing is a big part of the equation, isn't it?
It's so good to see her take the win there. I know Millie, this is not her strong suit. She's definitely new to the Crankworx series, really a downhill specialist. So I know she'll be looking forward to that event later on in the week.
Well, CJ Seelig, the 510 team manager, with a bit of work to do here, but she's just happy to make it into the finals, make it into the night show here, live broadcast at the Crankworx Innsbruck Pump Track Challenge.
And Kathy is one of those girls who is, again, like an all-arounder.
So Kathy Kuipers, obviously no stranger to how to set up a bike.
And I'm talking about my personal setup for the pump track race today. I have a Rockshox Pike DJ. I'm running 194 PSI and 2 clicks on the compression side open and 8 rebound clicks. The key is probably just use all the air in your fork you have as hard as possible. So that's my shock setup for the pump track race. Enjoy it.
Elliot, it's going to be crazy to compare the suspension settings we have when we go to those features right now in pump track to later on this weekend when we're talking about downhill, where couldn't be any more opposite bike setups.
Yeah, it's so true. I was kind of laughing about that. In slalom, we had an 85 PSI fork, and here we're way over 100 because any sort of compression or a movement of the suspension is going to slow you down, because that's energy going into the fork rather than into the ground, which is going to propel you forward. But the trade-off there, again, is the traction. How comfortable do I feel in the turns? Am I prepared to really have that front wheel slide? So that's what the riders are going to be paying attention to when they're setting up the suspension.
Stiff suspension, high tire pressure, name of the game in pump track. CJ Seelig knocked out there by Kathy Kuipers, but great to see her out taking part in the festivities here at Crankworx Innsbruck. So Can Kathy Kuipers move on to face Mathilde Bernard in the finals? Kathy Kuipers is the number 2 qualifier, so she's the most worthy opponent based simply on the math we're seeing on our seeding list here. But how about the men? The French show here, Adrien Laurent leading that show as the top qualifier. Look at his collision course though. Could we see Cheney Gonnet, the number 2 qualifier, meet up into the gold medal round and have a France versus France battle?
Yeah. It's gonna be hard. You know, we've got Slavik who's got some time to make up. Pretty much everyone's got time to make up on the French.
So if you joined us just a few hours ago for the Crankworx Innsbruck dual slalom race, then you know that Adrien Laurent has already been having a great day. Take a look back at how he took the gold medal, his first dual slalom gold medal, if you believe it or not.
You know, this was one of those races that was just so exciting to watch. Luke was on fire, you know, Laurent was chilled out, just having a perfect race, slapping that turn. And these were the turns that we were looking at all day, where it was all about execution. Everyone's really pushing. Luke just missing out on that first place, but Laurent taking that first win. Amazing.
When you qualify first, you put a lot of pressure on yourself to win the race. Luke Meyer-Smith qualified first. And he's definitely a youngster, a rookie. That was his first time making it into the big show. Not to mention qualifying first, wasn't able to take it all the way across the finish line. The veteran Adrien Laurent grabbed the gold. He's looking to make it 2 golds today, but first he's going to have to get past Hannes Slavik.
Needles, what do you know, I was saying that it feels good to have that nice result earlier in the day, but it does put a little bit more pressure on you. It's kind of like qualifying first at a World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, like at the start of the week, if you offered him first place qualifying, he'd take it. So, I mean, at these big events, you're not a professional if you don't want to be under a bit of pressure, but I would still love the result early in the week. I mean, I remember sometimes when there was slalom or 4-cross at events, and if I managed to get a good result, I mean, I just slept so much better going into downhill. So, you know, hopefully he's kind of relieved. He's already got a gold medal, so the event as a whole is a success for it, so he can only add to it.
Yeah, man. And we were talking about kind of Laurent's just ability to ride the track. There's an interesting section here. Right before that last turn, you kind of saw Laurent ease up on the pumping, and he was doing that so he didn't actually have to brake. So sometimes the riders, instead of braking, you'll just de-pump. So you'll pump at the wrong time to lose a little bit of speed, and it's going to be better than braking. Make sure it kind of keeps your rhythm going, and it manages your speed throughout the course.
So next heat's going to be between Thomas Lemoyne and Thomas Slavik. Only one Thomas can survive. One obviously representing the French contingent so strong here, but Thomas Slavik representing the Czech Republic, looking to take down the French. We mentioned how Thomas Lemoyne competes in so many different disciplines, all on that bike. Take a look at how he sets his bike up.
Hi, I'm Thomas Lemoyne. This is my Canyon Stitch 360. Custom paint by Canyon. A bunch of aliens on the bike. I've got my SDG X Stratos saddle, Swarm crank, NC17 pedals, Novatec crisp wheels, Continental Race King tires, Sensus grips, Trixer gyro on, and that's it pretty much.
Thomas Lemoyne loves aliens, he loves rapping, he loves pump track, he loves dual slalom, he loves speed style, he loves slope style. This guy does it all. It's like so entertaining to follow his Instagram account, because if he's not putting out banger riding clips, he's putting out his raps, he's recording his own raps, putting it to his own bike riding videos. Such an entertaining character. But he's going to have to get past Thomas Slavik here. Lemoyne with a healthy advantage of over a second.
I just wonder what that conversation looked like. Yeah, what would you like on your bike, Thomas? Aliens?
He wanted his bike invaded. Well, Lemoyne doing what he can right now to try to get a medal here tonight, but conserve energy for his big show tomorrow. Slopestyle, obviously his main event. Such a hard event even to get invited to. He's the only rider out here in the slopestyle field who decides it's worth his time to compete in pump track as well. This is a season he was hoping to make a run for King of Crankworx. Obviously that's not in the cards right now, but we have Thomas Lemoyne on headset. Lemoyne, I'm so surprised to see you going for the pump track race right now, even though there's no overall. Big day tomorrow with slopestyle. When they moved it a day earlier, did you ever consider not doing pump track?
Yeah, I should have, I think. I'm getting tired, but I had a good practice at slopestyle. So I felt like I should just continue as I did the qualies in pump track before, and I felt not that bad. So I'm here trying to hold on.
Thomas, I love the aliens. What is the story behind all of that?
It's a long story. Since I'm a kid, I'm a big fan of aliens. So yeah, this is a different story. I will tell you.
Well, it's otherworldly to decide to compete in pump track the night before slopestyle, but you did qualify fourth, so obviously you could take it out there. We'll be rooting for you.
Thank you.
All right, Thomas Lemoyne, always such an entertaining character. Great to have him in the field. Can't wait to see what he can do as our night progresses. He just knocked out the number 5 seed, Thomas Slavic. And he will be linking up with Adrian Larone in the semifinals. So those are two who have definitely lined up against each other plenty of times, both in pump track and in speed and style. That will be the number 1 qualifier going up against the 4th place qualifier, a David and Goliath type of scenario. Kind of a similar scene right now with Louis Rabot, the freeride specialist, going up against the rider with the BMX background, Niels Bensink.
Yeah, this is our kind of our hope to see if we can get another non-French rider in those semifinals.
So Andrew Needling, this is a really tight differential here between Rabot and Niels. Do you think Rabot has what it takes to try to knock him out?
Yes. Well, he's been riding so well that it's going to be a tough one. Look at them. And there's the class coming to the top. That's Bensink. He was not having any of that. Lou Rabot gave him a good shot in the first run, but it wasn't to be here.
Niels Bensink says, all right, free rider, go catch some air. I'm moving on into the semifinals. Always great to have Louis Rabot, one of our favorite riders out there. So much style, so much skill. And very impressive to see him make it this far, especially considering his path to get to this point. He had to knock out Adrian Daly, a race specialist.
Man, Bensink's bars are super wide. Like, look at the difference between his and Rabot's.
I guess you can afford to have wider bars if you're not trying to spin him off of every jump. So a great performance out of there for Louis Rabot, absolutely holding his own. But Niels Bensink moving on to the semifinals. Now Gauthier Zhong against Cheney Gounet. Let's take a look at what this differential looked like. Cheney Gounet, obviously no stranger to the top step of that podium. He has the advantage, just under a second ahead of Gauthier Zhong.
And this is one of those races where, you know, as Cheney, you are expected to win. You expect yourself to win, everyone else expects you to win. And that can be good and bad. You have the confidence to do it, but it's all about not making a mistake. Cruises through.
You know, if you see a rider doubling those final 2 rollers right into that timing right, they're carrying so much speed. Let's slow it down and just really appreciate the subtlety of how Cheney Gounet is carrying so much speed without even pedaling. This is what pump track's all about, Elliot.
Yeah, man, I love that little nose tap on that camel hump out of the start. Again, catching every single thing there. And as a BMXer, he's really good at pushing the back tire into the rollers. that's where you're getting all that pump, you know, using your legs, using all of that strength, kind of doing like a squat on the back side of the roller.
Andrew, the physics of pumping is what this race format is all about, and not too dissimilar from playing on a swing set. Everybody's done that. You can kind of compare that to how you use gravity to generate speed on a pump track, can't you?
Yeah, if you think about it, in a swing, when you're at the top of it, if you then load the swing or push, not much happens, it kind of jerks. But if you get it just perfect at the bottom, you end up going really high. So that's what Elliot was talking about. It's really about experience and touch to know exactly where that point is in the roller to really drive down on.
Drive train a chain, who needs it when we're talking about the Rockshox Innsbruck Pump Track Challenge? Look at that, the #1 qualifier, Mathilde Bernard. We're gonna see her racing after the break. Stick around.
Break 5.
Rockshox Innsbruck Pump Track Challenge. And then there are four left in the field of women, 4 left in the field of men. We're finally going to get to see our #1 qualifier from the women take to the course. She had a bye because we had a field of 7 in the round of 8, so she skated cleanly and effortlessly into that round of 4, but that 3-second lead in the seeding, it's going to be exciting to see her go head-to-head.
Yeah, man, I know she's frustrated after the 2nd place in the slalom. That was back and forth. I've never seen that before. A rerun, a tie, and then a disqualification. So she's really going to want this win and want to kind of redeem herself after making a little mistake.
Instant opportunity for redemption there for Mathilde Bernard. That's going to be good. We were talking before the break about just the physics of pumping. How do you get these bikes going so fast without a chain and only a tiny hill to get started? It's about the pumps, but it's also about line choice. You say, line choice? What are you talking about? There's berms and rollers. It's narrow. But take a look at this. Adrian Larone has it down to a science. When it comes to the right path in the berm, how would you describe what Adrian Larone is doing with his tires and his choices here?
Yeah, so I think one of the things we think about is how the distance kind of versus the speed trade-off. So he's going to want to go high up in the berm so his tires don't slide. We see kind of a lot of Instagram videos where people are slapping turns, getting a little wild. But what that is taking away speed. So he's really trying to have the smoothest line around the turn, and going high as well will kind of give you that downward angle into the first roller after the turn as well.
Andrew, it kind of speaks toward what you were talking about earlier, is back in the day when you would watch Eric Carter ride, yeah, you're not seeing a bunch of roost fly off his tire. He's painting those efficient lines, isn't he? That's the way to get fastest between point A and point B.
Yeah, that's key, man. The path of least resistance, and the wider you can come into a turn, the better. Really much 99% of the time. And then it depends on the next straight. If you're not having to do a hard turn, you've got to go wide and carry as much speed as you can into the straights. And that's what he's able to do.
A lot of times manualing rollers can take you offline, so you may know which line you want to ride in those berms, but you just may not find yourself there. Right now, Mathilde Bernard finally finding herself in the gate against a competitor, Paula Zibasa. Here's your #1 qualifier.
Wow, you know, taking that same line that Cheney was, the little nose tap on the front of that Camelback. I just am so impressed with how good she is at pumping, how good she is at manualing these rollers and stuff like that. So we've seen it all day long.
So Mathilde Bernard doing exactly what you'd expect out of the #1 qualifier, putting a 1.5 on Zibasa. She looks excited to be actually doing something now.
Yeah,
I get to join the party.
You know, it's such a waiting game, and especially too as the night kind of picks up, it gets a little bit cooler. You're just kind of watching your friends ride and wishing you're out there. So
Mathilde Bernard grabbed that advantage there. Now it's Elka Rabadair against Kathy Kuipers in their first of 2 runs in the semifinal heat.
You saw Elke trying to really get that start, there's been a couple different techniques over the years where we saw, what would you call it, the salmon?
There's a slippery salmon, I think. Somebody started calling it that, where you're just wiggling, you're trying to get that tire weaving back and forth to get the momentum started.
Yeah.
Andrew, what was the second one we had?
I don't know. I think I always used to go with the slippery salmon, and you had another one that we used to kind of bet on who's going to use what. But you'll have to try rejar your memory there, Cam. It's failing me right now.
Squatting dog or something? I feel like it was the squatting.
I think it was the squatting dog. But the slippery salmon,
we're gonna have to see if we see the squatting dog.
You guys, yeah.
I love that. The slippery salmon. The slippery salmon.
I mean,
so next time we get a shot
of
the actual start. Here's a look at our semifinals brackets. Mathilde Bernard, your #1 qualifier, 1.5 ahead of Zibasa. Rabbit Deer trailing Kathy Kuipers by 0.6. And this is what the men's look like, Elliot.
Yeah, so we have that lone non-French rider there with Vincing from the Netherlands. You know, Laurent and Lemoyne are two people who have gone up against each other in the Crankworx World Tour over the years. This is a matchup that we've seen in the finals, we've seen sometimes in the first round, and here, you know, they're good friends, but they're also so skilled. Excited to see.
This could be tight, yeah. #1 versus #4 qualifiers. Adrian Laurent wearing the blue there is your #1 qualifier, but Lemoyne a little bit ahead in the first straightaway.
Totally. They're pretty close. It's going to be up to this last left-hand and right-hand turn.
Oh, Laurent usually finishes strong, though. Yeah. Oh, it's going to be tight, but I believe Lemoyne, yep, he does have the advantage. 0.192. So that'll be a drag race once we switch sides. Such a tight deficit between these two riders who are so accustomed to lining up in the gate alongside each other.
Yeah, I think we saw the double pump from Lemoyne there. Everyone's pushing so hard. You saw Lemoyne kind of cringing at the end. This is a really long pump track. We were talking about fitness at the end. It looks easy, or it looks quick, I guess I should say, but it is super physical.
So, Andrew, Lemoyne, you can see here visually a taller rider than Laurent. Do you think longer legs mean more opportunity to pump, or do you think it's easier to get stuffed up on yourself if you're that tall?
Well, I would think so, but Mathilde Bernard is proving us wrong if that's our theory. Yeah, I mean, you've got more leverage, so in theory you could maybe pump harder, but it's also kind of power to weight ratio. But I'm not surprised Lemoyne is putting in such a fast run. I think he would have practiced a little bit less because he had slopestyle. Now he's got a bit more time on course, so it kind of makes sense that he's going to get quicker as the night progresses.
Good point there as we take a look at our next heat in the gate. Niels Bensink, the final hope to knock out the French, but he's got to get past Cheney Gounet.
Yeah, we saw that close-up of Laurent's lines, and I think with these riders, you really want to take a look at what they're focusing on. So it's not just about, coming into the turn. They're thinking a couple of steps ahead. It's kind of like chess. When I come out of this turn, how's it going to set me up for these next rollers? Where do I really want to carry the most speed? Cheney's just so good at that.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, we've got to watch a replay of Cheney Gounet after every single run because he puts on a clinic. It's crazy. We're talking about what's more of a benefit, being tall or being short. And, it's a great point that you had, Andrew, is if you look at Mathilde Bernard, she's not a tall rider, but it's all about the timing here more so than any type of physical advantage, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you can see Cheney Gounet, low center of gravity. He's staying super low. He's composed. He's got a few different options that he does compared to other guys. He's got a manual down the back straight. But what Elliot was saying is totally correct. These guys are thinking 4 or 5 corners ahead. because some corners, they actually do go inside, and that's normally not the fast way to do it, but it puts them outside for the next one, which might help for a long straight. So it is almost a little chess game, and you almost got to go around the track backwards and decide on your lines.
If you come back, yeah. This side is beating you. So Cheney Gounet, the 2018 Crankworx Pump Track World Tour champ, is a rider who entered the scene here on Crankworx via Pump Track. Pump Track's such a great gateway, allowing lots and lots of riders to find mountain biking. And Elliot Jackson, you've started a fantastic foundation that's bringing these opportunities to people who live in areas that wouldn't typically have these opportunities to ride a pump track and potentially find their gateway into mountain biking.
Totally. I feel like we've all ridden a pump track and just loved it. So we're doing some stuff in Los Angeles with Velo Solutions, and it's really exciting, kind of bringing the sport to people who haven't experienced it, and bringing it to an area that you know, you have to maybe travel a couple hours to ride a mountain bike and stuff like that. I can't wait to, you know, have some races there, get some hopefully world championships there, and really just spend some time with kids and make a really an impact.
Well, you're doing great things with Grow Cycling Foundation. I know you have so many plans for that. Just one of your first initiatives is that pump track you're speaking about, but I'm sure you're going to continue to just spread that out and grow mountain biking to people who maybe wouldn't be exposed to it otherwise. So if you want to learn more about that, go to growcyclingfoundation.org and find out how you can get involved. Okay, back to racing here. There is the woman we've been speaking about all night, Mathilde Bernard, the #1 qualifier by over 3 seconds. But this day started a long time ago. It seems like a different day to Mathilde. She found herself in the final earlier on in dual slalom. And for a second there, she thought she had the win.
I know, that's like such an emotional roller coaster, where you lose and then you win and then you lose again. We see here.
Here's how it all went down. It was a 0.49 differential between Morgan Schär and Mathilde Bernard.
Yeah, and you can tell, like I was talking about, those rollers. And right here, you know, both of them, Morgan goes down, but then, you know, we don't see it on camera, but this flag right here, look at the back tire, right on the inside. Like, she had it, like all she had to do was finish. But, you know, every single rider is pushing. She didn't actually probably know that Morgan crashed at all, because she came into that section a little bit hotter. You know, she's pedaling out of it. It's, man, such a frustrating one, but you're right there.
So for Mathilde Bernard, dual slalom was the win that got away, but this is her bread and butter right here. Pump track challenge, she is the top qualifier by over 3 seconds, and now she's got 1.5 advantage over Paula Zibasa. Should be an easy path into the gold medal round.
Yeah, and you can see, you know, like Needles was saying, those wide lines in. And we think about turns as being different than, you know, rollers. But one of the things that Mathilde does really well is enter high into those berms and then actually cut a little bit lower so she can get a pump through the berm as well. You're not just riding the berms, you're really trying to get a pump as well. So, you know, over this roller, manual, little nose tap. And then watch this. So she comes in high, and then she'll start to go down on these 90-degree turns. Really try to get some pumps there. You see it, and here again, really entering high, getting a pump, and those last 3 turns are key to carry speed on this last straight, because it's a bit of an uphill actually.
I'd say, you know, that's something unique to pump track that you wouldn't typically see in a BMX track, where there's those really long berms where there's not much of a compression of your energy, but in these tight berms, when anytime you're loaded up, that's an opportunity to let that spring uncoil and gather some more speed. So despite coming from that BMX background, these skills that are unique to pump track are coming into play here as Mathilde Bernard cruises through. We got to find out who she'll match up against. That's our big question right now.
Yeah, don't forget to grab yourself some merch.
Man, all these women are so good at staying in the gate. I have to like put my feet on at the very last second or else I fall over.
So Kathy Kuipers with the advantage of 0.62 ahead of Elke Rabader. Germany versus Austria here in the semifinal heat run 2.
And these two women are so evenly matched. Again, it's about this last straight. Now we're getting later into the day.
Oh, man. Okay, not much to say here. All right, there we go.
Wow.
Wow, look at that. Such tight racing there as Kathy Kuipers defends. Was able to move on, but it was not handed over to her.
Yeah, you know, there's no chain. You're like neck and neck. You're like, I want to do anything, but the best thing I can do is just, you know, just try to pump. I can't pedal.
Sometimes if you lose a little momentum in pump track, it can feel like those scary dreams you get where you're trying to run away from something, but you're not going anywhere. You want to pedal, but you can't. There's nothing to pump because you don't have the momentum.
I know. Needles, did you ever do that? You take off your chain and then you almost go over the bars and you go to pedal as soon as you get on your bike.
100%. I did that more than once. I definitely have done that, where you subconsciously just don't want to do, I can't actually use the correct term for it, but you do a little crank, half crank, but you don't have a chain, so that just throws all your momentum forward, and yeah, I've landed on my ass, to be honest.
So there we go. Lerone trailing Lemoyne right now in the midst of his long day to start this Crankworx week. This long day is just the tip of the iceberg. He's got plenty of events coming up next. We caught up with him to find out how he prepares for all these events he signs up for.
We really have to be versatile. We have to be focusing on so many things in the same week. I mean, it's very different to go for a single race and focusing everything on this single race, all your energy, all your mental things. Here you have to think about everything, your tires for tomorrow, your setups, your pressures, your bike, your gears. It's never stopping. It's always something to think about during the week.
I feel like that's something that really kind of gets glossed over in the Crankworx World Tour, where all these riders were riding totally different bikes this morning and practicing different course, you know, getting different lines. They have to prepare their bikes, think about those tire pressures, think about the lines that they're going to do. It's really a context switching thing for everyone, and now to come out here and just spin it is amazing.
Oh man, what will the story be? Thomas Lemoyne leading out Adrien Lerone by the tightest advantage there, 0.192. Oh, that looks like it could be enough. We'll have to wait and see what the clock has to say about that. Oh,
wow.
0.3. Adrien Lerone advances. Look at that. What a day this has been for Adrien Lerone. But you know what? Thomas Lemoyne really making him earn it. Now he has the opportunity to go rest up for slopestyle.
Yeah, right. He's sad about it, but also like kind of happy about it.
So I know these two are good friends. I'm sure if Lemoyne's going to pass on the opportunity to get a medal here, he would hand it over to his good friend Adrien Lerone.
I love watching slow motion kind of BMX or pump track where it looks like the riders are just floating. I mean, they kind of are, where you're picking up the bike before the roller, putting it down on the backside, and then picking it up through that little bits and pieces. It's really amazing to see.
Hey, Elliot, I just got ahead of myself here. Check this out. We were just saying, hey, Lemoyne, it's time for you to get rested up for slopestyle tomorrow. He's still got a bronze medal on the line. He's going to go into that consolation round and potentially still get some hardware tonight. So yeah, not time to rest yet.
That's so true.
Okay, Cheney Gounet with the advantage of 0.159. Another tight matchup. Can Nils Bensing come from behind?
I'm wondering, you know, this last right-hand turn that Bensing is going to go into in the onto that last straight. I wonder if it's a bit faster. Cheney pulling back, though.
Wow, that's precision right there. You can tell he was a little bit worried. He didn't have much to play with. And basically threading the needle there just enough to knock out Niels Bensink. Cheney Gonnet moves on.
Yeah, and you know, mentally, Needles, when you know one lane is faster, how do you think about that? Like you're behind, but you know you're supposed to be behind at the beginning, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. You've got to kind of visualize what you're going to do in the start gate and kind of not get too ahead of yourself, especially when you're on the fast lane. You know what I mean? So if you do end up being a bit behind, you hopefully know that you can make it up.
So the stage is set right now for our medal rounds. The big final, the gold medal matchup will be between Adrien Leron and Cheney Gonnet. So it is determined. France will take the gold out here and the silver. Bronze medal will be a toss-up between Thomas Lemoyne and Niels Bensink. And for the ladies, it looks like this, Elliot.
Yeah, we kind of knew that Mathilde would be in there, Kathy Kuipers, and then the bronze medal. This would be really close. It's kind of a mimics our qualifying there.
Yeah, sorry, I messed up. Wow, all right, well, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Our final matchups are set. We're about ready to give away more medals. It's been a great day of competition already. Slalom earlier today, but things heating up in the Rockshox Innsbruck Pump Track Challenge. Bronze and gold medal matchups coming up next.
3, 2, 1.
Crankworx Innsbruck right in the meaty end of the Rockshox Innsbruck Pump Track Challenge. You see some snow on that hill, but we are not letting summer pass us by without squeezing in another Crankworx World Tour event. Of course, it's the first time since 2004 we didn't have our event in Whistler, but look at this. This is great. We're not going without a fight. We've got Crankworx Innsbruck. Yeah, we don't have a crowd out there. We got to abide by local regulations, but we still have racing, and that racing action is very much heating up here. We have the gold medal and bronze medal matchups set for both the men and women. It's going to be a battle between Adrien Leron and Cheney Gonnet. For the men, going for that gold medal, but for the bronze medal, it's all about Lemoyne and Bensink. But we're going to kick things off with the women here first. Bronze medal matchup, Zibasa and Rabadir. What will the story be? Latvia versus Austria. I would say Elka has the hometown crowd cheering her on, but they'll just be cheering her on from home.
Yeah, it's so true. I think there's always a little bit of pressure when you have a hometown race. You always want to do well. But again, you know, Paula traveling here, really trying to make it happen. They've been evenly matched, like qualifying right next to each other. All looking really good.
Whoa.
Wow. It's crazy how tight the racing is, all the way down to the finish. You know, you can't really tell. You come onto that last straight, and then next thing you know, you're neck and neck.
0.2 separating these two riders here. Very manageable differential when it comes to pump track. When you start seeing those gaps that are closer to a second, that's when you say, all right, it's going to take a mistake on the leader's end to make this a manageable margin, but we still have anyone's game here for this bronze medal matchup in the women's category. Now, Andrew, we've seen Mathilde racing so much already today. How much fire do you think is going on under that helmet after just barely missing that win in dual slalom earlier?
Yeah, that one's definitely got to hurt. So Mathilde will be coming up in the final, and the tricky thing for her is she's so much faster than the others, but if you start playing it too conservatively and think, you often make a mistake. You've got to stay in that attack mode.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that pressure cooker scenario. But right now, Thomas Lemoyne, the slopestyle specialist, He's waiting for the opportunity to get some sleep and get ready for a slopestyle. We have somebody walking on their hands back there. Did you see that?
Is that Laurent? He's a new man.
He is officially a new man. He's usually all race face, but he's got an opportunity to win the gold medal, his second of the day, and he's just doing handstands back there. But right now the gate has dropped. Thomas Lemoyne against Niels Bensing.
Wow, that turn right after. Oh, he almost went over the top. He's going for Bensing.
What? How in the world is that possible? Bensing gets a major bobble, but still crossing the finish line a quarter of a second ahead of Thomas Lemoyne.
That was wild. Pump track is one of those things where if you were to just ride around it really slow, I think that's one of the things we say, like, you can ride a pump track at 2 years old, any skill level, but when you're going this fast and pushing this hard, it's easy to get wild, like get whiskey, you know? And you saw Niels almost go to the berm on one of those second to last turns.
That's a great reason why these pump tracks are so important. It's a great way to get kids into bike riding because there's minimal risk there. But when you have the skills to really take to this course the way it was designed to be ridden, you see stuff like that happening. Niels Bensing almost blowing off course. Thomas Lemoyne, a quarter of a second to make up if he wants to grab a bronze medal before he focuses his attention on tomorrow's slopestyle event. But now, all about the women's gold medal matchup, run 1 in this final heat here between, this is the bronze medal matchup between Rabadare and Zibasa.
Yeah, back to back. I think this is Mathilde and Kathy Kuipers.
That makes more sense.
Yeah. And Needles, we saw Kathy with the flat pedals. Why would you want to run, flats or clips on something like this?
Yeah, it's always been a tough one for me. I used to switch between them, and I think it depends on what you're really used to and what you have touch and feel for. Obstacles incredibly fast if you're used to it on this track, even though flats is what people are known for on pump tracks and jumps. So it really comes down to what you practice with the most. You've got to stick to that. It's not like in downhill where flats, unless you're Sam Hill, is fast. Here you can make flats just as fast or faster,
Wow, Mathilde just putting in the steez at the end.
So Kathy Kuiper is definitely doing what she needs to do. If you consider Mathilde had a 3-second lead in qualies, and now it looked like a 1.3 advantage here in this gold medal matchup. Kathy Kuiper is doing what she can to try to narrow that gap and hope for a mistake out of Mathilde Bernard. But you know what? Wish in one hand and do something else in the other and see what weighs more. Mathilde Bernard, unshakable.
Well, I mean, we talk about anything can happen, and after slalom, I think that actually came true. We had not only a crash and a rerun, and also a disqualification, so Mathilde just steezing it out at the end.
Mathilde happy to know that there's no gates in pump track. You don't have to worry about clipping one of those with the back tire. That was her Achilles heel in the dual slalom race, causing her to be relegated to that silver medal step on the podium. She's all smiles right now as she takes that advantage into the second run of the gold medal matchup. Now time to get a peek at our gold medal run number 1 between Adrienne Leron and Cheney Gonnet. France will take the win here, but will it be 2 golds in one day for Adrienne Leron?
Man, I gotta put my money on him. He's just been riding so well, but this is Cheney's event.
Well, list of accomplishments there for Adrienne Leron.
Yeah, man, I remember that first kind of battle. He's made so much progress. To go and win a race like A-Line is just incredible. He was kind of known as the pump track specialist, maybe a smoother, anything that was really smooth, but to win and do well and win a King of Crankworx title, you have to be good at everything.
So this is the collision course, you hope to see when you take a look at the initial brackets. The number 1 qualifier going up against the number 2 qualifier, both from France. Who's going to get this advantage? Will it be Adrian Leron or Cheney Gunet?
They're both pushing so hard. You can see him jumping from way back outside. Adrian's really got this last straight dialed in. I think he made a couple of mistakes, you know, throughout the run. Got the finish really good. So I think if he gets a clean run next time, you know, it should be closer. But again, it's all about those mistakes.
Let's see. Did you identify, Andrew, did you identify any mistakes in particular? Right now we're looking at Cheney Gunet, but obviously Leron with the differential to try to make up. Did you notice any particular mistakes for him?
Yeah, I could see Adrian, he was fighting the bike a little bit more than he was through the other heats, and that is often in a final he might get a bit tenser, his muscles are actually tighter physically, and that can happen, so you're not quite getting that flow and pump, but I do feel he was on the slower lane, so if he just resets and says, you know what, I think I'm going to the faster lane, it doesn't really matter about what just happened, and you just get to the, you know, focus on the next race, he should still have a real good chance of taking that win.
Well, that's a good point. We talk about his ability to stay mentally loose today. I mean, we just saw him walking on his hands in between heats, but that's a good point. It's a long day of racing for him, and it's totally possible that his body could be tensing up, and that really could affect your timing. Timing's everything in pump track. Let's take a look at the bronze medal round number 2 here between Rabadere and Zibasa.
Yeah, and you know, Paula's, like I said, she comes from a downhill background. Did some really great results in 2008 in her last year junior. This is her second year elite, so she's going to be for the World Championships next week.
Zibasa with 0.2 to play with.
It looks like she's got a bit of an advantage coming into this last straight. She's going to try to cruise it on home. Make sure she doesn't do some crazy mistakes.
Well, time to give away our first medal of this pump track race. Paula Zibasa grabbing the bronze, 3rd place. Impressive performance out of her tonight.
Yeah, that is amazing. To get a bronze medal at Crankworx in any discipline is just incredible.
So Zibasa doing it from the 4th place qualifying position, moving one up, grabbing the bronze.
Yeah, getting those good lines, you know, high to low, coming into the finish. She's got really really precise style. It's cool to see. You can kind of see exactly where she puts her wheels down. One of the things to note is how much the back wheel comes off the ground after the peak of the roller. The less it comes off the ground, the more pump you're going to get.
So there we go. Congratulations, taking home the bronze medal, Paula Zibasa. But still, a lot more racing to come here. We've got 3 more medals to be given away. Will this man, who is so serious on the race course, but so fun-loving and entertaining on social media, be able to grab a medal before he puts himself to bed for slopestyle? Take a look at the Pit Viper kit for Thomas Lemoyne.
That's a birthday kit.
He's an entertainer.
Suit.
He's an entertainer. Look at that. How about the contrast there? He is so focused when it comes to lining up in the start gate with high stakes here. Bronze medal on the line. Can he add to his trophy collection? Thomas Lemoyne on the right side of your screen, representing France. Niels Bensink from that BMX background, representing the Netherlands. He's got that crazy training compound. Follow both of these guys on social media.
Oh, yeah, seriously.
Posting crazy entertaining content.
Be ready to be jealous.
Lemoyne back by a quarter of a second.
Lemoyne, a really good start. Let's see if Niels can pull it back. He's been super consistent all day. Lemoyne's really going to want this if he finishes. Lemoyne's got a bit of an advantage.
Oh, he needs a quarter of a second. What's it going to be? Oh, it's going to be close. Lemoyne, can he do it? Oh, 0.3. Lemoyne does it, grabbing the bronze medal out from under Niels Bensink. Andrew, what do you make of this? I mean, this guy needs to get to bed right now, but he's going to be on an adrenaline high tonight before slopestyle.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to get to sleep because he rode so well when it counted. And that is just staying present, staying in the moment, knowing that you're probably on the faster lane. And he just had to really dig deep though, because it must be a bit disheartening going into this heat, knowing, oh shit, I got to make up 0.25. He's not sure if that is going to be possible on that lane. And man, he did that. He was just flawless.
We always talk about how 0.25, oh, that's manageable, but that's like really optimistically speaking. It's usually something we don't see, right?
Yeah. And it's crazy to think about like that much of a gap he's actually, it's like, oh, can he make up a quarter of a second? I don't know. It's
the blink of an eye.
Yeah, right? I mean, yeah, like reaction time is barely that, so it is a game of millimeters here.
Look at that. All right. Well, another medal to be awarded here. It's like we're just passing them out here. This is what it all comes down to. This is the moment we get excited for.
And it never gets old. I mean, we've seen this pump track, but the racing is still so exciting. It's one of the things that I love about pump track.
So how did we get here? What are our deficits and what's at stake? Let's take a look back at run number 1 of this heat.
Yeah, I think Matil has just been kind of putting on a clinic all day. How do you be smooth, making sure you take those lines in the corners. Again, you know, watching how quickly she puts her wheels down after a roller so that she can get maximum pump. Doing a little double there, throwing a little steez. Hey.
So Mathilde threw the line first in run number 1 with style. So this is hers to lose. It's been hers to lose all day. She's already lost today. She knows what that feels like. She wants to end on a high note, grab that gold medal to be added to the silver medal that she won earlier on today. Mathilde Bernard with the advantage of 1.3 over Kathy Kuipers. Here we go.
Man, a couple bikes right off the start. Getting that little nose press. Out of that last turn, the second left-hand turn, it's hard to make sure you get back and pull back. So you see the riders kind of getting into the grasp of Mathilde, really just, getting the manual. Yeah,
there we go.
It's gotta feel good.
Pump track, the bread and butter of Mathilde Bernard. That's how she launched her Crankworx career, coming from that BMX background. But now it turns out it was her gateway into mountain biking. She's competing in all the disciplines, including downhill, and she's grabbing the gold here in pump track.
Yeah, that has got to feel amazing. What do you think really the biggest difference is, Needles, that separates her from everyone else?
Yeah, I just think it's that BMX background that she's got. You can just see she's so precise, and she's just got an amazing touch to know exactly where that back wheel is at every time. She didn't really miss any pump or any rollers the whole evening. So, you know, she's showing experience as well, even though she's very young, to be able to qualify fastest. There's all the expectations, pressure, and she was able to deliver. And yes, we don't have all the top riders here, but she still maintained that from the get-go.
We were watching practice earlier on our feed, and she is so comfortable on that back wheel. She was just kind of playing around, seeing how far she could manual in that first straightaway. It's that playful attitude and enjoying the process that allowed her to take a gold and a silver today. Well, what a way to finish off a day that obviously started out, you know, eventful and exciting, but she wanted that gold medal, so she finally got it. Instant redemption for Mathilde Bernard.
Yeah, man, that's definitely got to feel good, like you said. But, you know, Laurent and Lemoyne are going to be, you know, they're in opposite positions. So I think it's going to be, you know, who's going to dig the deepest out of all of these men.
Here we go. Laurent, the #1 qualifier on the collision course with the #2 qualifier, Cheney Gounet. And here's your deficit. Adrian Laurent back by 0.27.
Laurent's got to just lay it. He's got to lay it out there. This is, you know, the last run of the day. traveled to Austria for this. They're neck and neck coming around. So now Laurent's been hitting this last straight. Goes a little bit high. Here we go.
Oh, what's it going to be? He needs .27. Does he do it? It's going to be so close. Adrian Lerone makes it 2 gold medals in one day, sweeping the field here in pump track.
Man, this dude. Get me on the handstands and surfing if that's what it means. I can win 2 events at Crankworx.
Man, this guy is really finding his stride right now.
Look at Emmanuel into this thing. All the way to the top, inches from the top of the berm.
You know, that's reminiscent. Andrew, do you remember last year we saw Adrian Lerone go over the berm in a clutch moment just last year on the same pump track, and here really rolling the dice, riding that line that, as you described earlier, is faster, staying high, but it's also so daring, especially in such a clutch moment like the finals.
Well, he was just that. He was clutch. I was thinking that we've seen him make mistakes when it really was moments where he just needed to play it safe. So it was amazing to see him just really deliver, and it really must be that carefree attitude.
So true. All right, Adrian Lerone, let's hear from you yourself. This is your 2nd gold medal of the day. You found yourself in 2 very high-pressure situations, and you're no stranger to those situations. We've seen you in the past throw it away under these circumstances, but today, unshakable. Is it the mindset? Is it the physical training? What do you attribute this win to?
I think it's just less stressful to be here today. It's hard to explain for the ones who are watching from TV, but you know, we are just with riders, talking a bit more between each others. We had like such a cool session during trainings, doing tricks and different lines because we are not too much people riding. And yeah, it's just a bit different, and I think we really enjoyed this Crankworx, even if of course we would like to have people around screaming, but for us it's really less stressful, I think.
Yeah, Laurent, we saw you, in the background doing a couple handstands. Is that a warm-up routine or just having fun?
Just having fun and trying to kill the time between heats.
Well, I could not possibly think of a better way to start out your Crankworx week here. You've obviously been doing the right thing in the off-season. You will actually get some rest before your next event, so congratulations. Go soak it up, my man.
Thank you very much, guys.
What a great performance today, Elliot, out of Adrian Lerone. 2 gold medals. I mean, we saw Mathilde Bernard. She knows what it's like to get 2 medals today, but that was a silver and a gold. But 2 for Adrian Lerone. That is not very often we see athletes get 2 medals in one Crankworx festival, but to do it all in one day as well, somebody's going to sleep nice.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was a perfect day. You can't do any better than he did. So, like he said, he's going to sleep good. He's gonna be happy. It's, Crankworx is going well.
So, Andrew Needling, obviously we're usually talking about the king and queen of Crankworx overall series. We don't have that this year, but if you were to foreshadow, if we're able to do that again next year, would you be putting your money on a guy like Adrian Lerone based on what we saw today?
After today, and I think if he can make some notes and really just reflect on what his feeling is, his attitude, how carefree he was having more fun, chatting to more of the riders, it relaxed him, and it's clearly a better environment for him. Sometimes the pressure is clearly getting to him, which is normal, but he's putting himself in these pressure situations, and now he's proven to himself, hey, I can deliver even if I qualify fastest, even if I'm already won in that day and everyone expects me to win. So I would be putting some money on him going into next year, absolutely.
Thank you, Andrew Needling. Thank you, Elliot Jackson. What a great day of competition, but guess what? You know what? These riders have an opportunity to go get some rest, unless you're talking about Thomas Lemoyne, because the next broadcast, we moved it up a day early based upon weather. We're trying to make sure we get the slopestyle underway without rainy conditions. It's going to kick off 9 o'clock a.m. European time, which is not that far away.
Yeah.
So, slopestyle fans, get ready.
Yeah, man, it's so true. It's like we were talking about, it's so much context switching. Lemoyne, he has to go from pumping speed to now airtime, tricks, precision. you know, he's used to it, but it still is difficult. That's what makes these riders the best in the world.
Well, congratulations to all the riders out there performing their best. Mathilde Bernard grabbing that gold. Adrian Leron grabbing 2 golds. What a great day of racing between dual slalom and the Rockshox Innsbruck Pump Track Challenge. We'll catch you in a few hours for slopestyle. See you then.